The forest was quiet but not peaceful. A cold wind moved through the tall, dark trees, carrying the smell of wet earth and fallen leaves. Shadows stretched long across the ground as the sun sank below the horizon. At the edge of a small clearing, a grave stood alone. Its stone was worn, covered in moss, and marked with a single silver wolf carved into the surface. The Alpha King walked slowly toward it. His steps were silent but heavy with grief. Even now, years after her death, the memory of Luna, his ex-Luna, haunted him. She had been strong, proud, and wise, the perfect Luna for his pack. And yet they had parted under bitter circumstances, hearts wounded by pride and misjudgment. Now she was gone, and all that remained was this grave. He knelt by the stone, resting a hand on the cool surface. His eyes closed, and for a moment he let himself remember. He remembered the way Luna's silver fur had shone in the moonlight, how her laughter had filled the night air, and how her eyes had looked at him as if he were the only wolf in the world. "I failed you," he whispered, his voice low and rough. "I should have protected you. I should have been better." The wind sighed in response, rustling the leaves as if it carried her reply, and the Alpha King felt a pang of loneliness that burned deep in his chest. He had led his pack, fought enemies, and ruled the lands, but without Luna the victories felt hollow. Then he heard it, a soft, almost human-like whimper. At first he thought it was the wind. Then another, closer, sharper. His instincts snapped alive. The Alpha King rose slowly, muscles tensed and eyes scanning the shadows. Two small figures appeared near the base of the grave. Tiny wolf pups, trembling, huddled together as if the cold and darkness were trying to devour them. But there was something strange about them. Their fur shimmered faintly like silver threads caught in the moonlight, and their eyes glowed with an unnatural light. The Alpha King's heart beat faster. He was a leader, a warrior, used to facing threats and intruders. But these pups, there was a strange aura about them, one that felt both familiar and impossible. "What are you doing here?" he asked, his voice steady but cautious. The pups froze, ears twitching, then looked up at him with eyes that reflected both fear and recognition. And then it happened. One of them whimpered again and spoke in a small, trembling voice. "Father." The word cut through him like a knife. The Alpha King's jaw tightened. He had heard no such sound in centuries. Wolves did not speak words like this, but the voice was real, and it was directed at him. He stepped closer, lowering himself to the ground, keeping his presence calm but firm. "I am your father?" he asked, disbelief heavy in his tone. The pups nodded, fear and longing mixing in their glowing eyes. "Mother, she wanted you to find us," the smaller one said, voice barely above a whisper. "She said you would protect us." The Alpha King felt the world shift. Memories of Luna, her love, her laughter, and her strength. All of it came rushing back.
He had thought he had buried the past with her.
He had thought the mistakes and pride that tore them apart would remain in the shadows. But now her legacy stood before him in the form of two trembling, magical pups. "Impossible," he muttered, shaking his head. His claws dug into the earth, leaving shallow marks in the dirt. "How? Luna!" The pups whimpered again and pressed closer to each other, eyes never leaving him. There was fear, yes, but also a trust that made the Alpha King's chest ache. He had never felt anything like it. Luna's blood ran through them. Her power, her essence, her love. They were all here. The forest seemed to respond to their presence. The wind swirled, lifting leaves and whispering through the trees. Shadows danced across the grave, almost as if the spirits of the past were stirring, acknowledging the reunion. The Alpha King knelt fully now, bringing himself closer to their level. He examined them carefully. Their fur shimmered silver like Luna's under the moonlight. One of the pups reached out a tiny paw, brushing it against his hand. The contact sent a spark through him. Not pain, not magic, but something deeper, almost like a heartbeat connecting theirs to hers. "You belong to her," he said softly, voice almost breaking. "You are part of her." The pups leaned against him, trembling but no longer afraid. He could feel the pulse of magic in them, the faint echo of Luna's spirit guiding them. His chest tightened with a mixture of awe, fear, and longing. He had faced armies, monsters, curses, and rival alpha packs, but nothing had ever struck him like this. The forest grew darker as the sun fully disappeared, and the first stars appeared in the sky. The Alpha King realized he could not leave them here, not alone. The grave of Luna was hallowed, sacred, but it was no place for young pups, especially ones carrying the essence of his lost Luna. He scooped them into his arms carefully, feeling their warmth and fragile weight. "I will protect you," he whispered, more to himself than to them. "I swear it. I will not fail again." The pups nestled against him, small and trusting, and for a brief moment the Alpha King allowed himself to feel hope. Luna's memory, their mother's love, had not ended with her death. It had been passed on through these two fragile lives. And perhaps, just perhaps, there was a chance for redemption, not just for him, but for the legacy they carried. But even as he turned to leave the grave, a shadow moved among the trees. A figure tall and silent watching him from the darkness. The Alpha King stiffened, instinctively growling low in his throat. Wolves were natural predators and guards, and he had trained himself to sense danger, even before it arrived. The shadow did not move closer, but its presence was undeniable. The wind carried a whisper, soft and cold. "They are not yours to claim." The Alpha King's grip tightened on the pups. His teeth clenched and a low, warning growl rumbled in his chest. Who could challenge him now, here at Luna's grave? He had fought enemies of his pack, even rival alphas who sought his death. But this was different. The pups looked up at him, sensing his tension, but their trust did not waver. They had survived until now because of Luna's power, and perhaps because fate itself had led them to him. The Alpha King's eyes narrowed. The wind tugged at his fur, carrying the distant howl of another pack, one he did not recognize. He could feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. He was not just an alpha anymore. He was a guardian of something far more precious than territory, far more valuable than power. He turned slowly, keeping the pups close, and stepped back into the forest. The moonlight touched the silver fur of the pups, making them glow like lanterns in the darkness. He would take them to his den where they would be safe. But he knew this was only the beginning. The shadow among the trees did not vanish, and the whispered warning echoed in his mind. "They are not yours to claim." For the first time in many years, the Alpha King felt fear, not for himself, but for what the future held. The past had returned, wrapped in the form of two tiny lives, and it demanded answers he was not sure he was ready to face. The forest stretched endlessly ahead, dark and full of secrets, and as the Alpha King walked, carrying Luna's legacy in his arms, he could not shake the feeling that this night was only the beginning of a journey that would change everything. He thought he knew about love, loss, and destiny. The forest seemed alive under the silver light of the moon. Shadows twisted among the trees, and the wind whispered like a secret, brushing past the Alpha King as he carried the two small pups. Their soft bodies trembled in his arms, and the glow of their eyes flickered like tiny stars, reflecting the power that lived inside them. The Alpha King walked quickly, his senses alert to every sound, every rustle of leaves. Something was watching them, he could feel it. The warning from the shadow at Luna's grave haunted him. "They are not yours to claim." He did not know what it meant, but he knew one thing. He would protect these pups with his life. The den he reached was hidden in the heart of the forest, carved into the side of a rocky hill and surrounded by thick roots and vines. Inside, the air was warm and the scent of his pack lingered. The Alpha King placed the pups gently on the soft moss that lined the floor. They sniffed cautiously, eyes wide, still unsure of this new place. "You are safe here," he said softly. "I will not let anything harm you." The pups looked at him, small whimpers escaping their throats. One of them lifted a paw and touched his hand, and a strange warmth ran through him, almost like a memory of Luna herself. The Alpha King swallowed hard, feeling a wave of grief and love wash over him. As he watched them, he noticed something unusual. The smaller pup's fur shimmered more brightly than normal, almost like it contained moonlight itself. The larger pup's eyes glowed with a soft golden hue, and when it moved, the shadows around it seemed to bend slightly, as if obeying its presence. "What are you?" he whispered, kneeling beside them. The pups huddled together, and for a moment the forest was quiet again. Then the smaller one spoke, its voice soft but certain. "Mother said, we must learn to control it. She said you could teach us." The Alpha King's eyes widened. "Control what?" "Their powers." He had suspected they were not ordinary pups, but this was beyond anything he had imagined. Luna had always been powerful, a Luna not just in name but in essence. If these pups were her children, it made sense that they carried her magic. But how and why had she left them at his grave? He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. "Very well," he said finally. "Then we begin. I will teach you, but you must trust me." Can you do that? The pups nodded slowly, eyes wide, shining in the dim light. The next days passed quickly. The Alpha King taught them not just to hunt and move quietly through the forest, but also to sense the energy around them, to feel the pull of magic, and to focus their powers. The smaller pup could summon gentle bursts of light, healing small cuts and bruises, while the larger pup could bend shadows, making them dance and stretch across the forest floor. At night, he would sit with them under the moonlight, sharing stories of Luna. He told them of her strength, her wisdom, and her love for the pack, and for him. Each story left the pups mesmerized, and even though they did not fully understand everything, they seemed to absorb her spirit, growing stronger in small ways. But the Alpha King could feel it. The forest itself was not at peace. A strange energy lingered in the trees, watching, waiting. He had seen the shadow at Luna's grave, and now he sensed more eyes following him, hidden in the dark. Something from the past, something that had not been defeated, was stirring. One evening, as the moon rose high, a strange figure appeared at the edge of the den. Tall, cloaked in darkness, it moved silently, but the Alpha King's instincts told him it was not ordinary. He stepped forward, growling low, signaling the pups to stay behind him. "Who are you?" he demanded, his voice firm yet controlled. The figure stepped into the moonlight, revealing a face half hidden beneath a hood. It was a male wolf from another pack, but not just any wolf. He had once been a rival, a warrior who had fought the Alpha King for territory and power. But this rival should have been long gone, defeated in battle. Yet here he was, alive, watching the Alpha King and the pups with sharp, calculating eyes. "They are mine by blood, not yours," the rival said, voice calm but dangerous. "You should not have taken them." The Alpha King's claws dug into the ground and a low growl escaped his throat. "They are not yours," he said firmly. "They are the children of Luna. They belong to her, and to me now." The rival laughed softly, a sound that carried no warmth. "You do not understand. These pups carry a power that you cannot control. They are part of a curse, a legacy that will bring destruction to your pack if you fail. You should have left them where you found them." The Alpha King's heart pounded. A curse? Luna had never spoken of a curse. And yet the evidence was in the pups' strange abilities, their unnatural presence, and the way the forest itself seemed alive around them. He looked down at them, small and trusting, and felt his resolve harden. "I will protect them," he said, voice steady and strong. "I do not care what curse or danger follows. They are mine to keep, and I will not fail them, not like I failed her." The rival's eyes narrowed. "Very well," he said finally, stepping back into the shadows. "But beware, Alpha King. The truth of their power will come for you. And when it does, not even your strength will save you." As the rival disappeared into the forest, the Alpha King knelt beside the pups, who looked at him with wide eyes. He hugged them close. "Do not fear," he whispered. "I will not let anything harm you. I swear it." That night, the Alpha King could not sleep. He paced the den, thinking of Luna, of the pups, and of the warning the rival had given. There were secrets hidden in the past, he knew, secrets that Luna had left for him to uncover, perhaps knowing he would one day find these children. The forest outside was quiet now, but the air was thick with anticipation. Something was coming. Something that would test the Alpha King in ways he had never imagined. The pups slept peacefully, unaware of the dangers lurking in the shadows, and he watched them, heart aching and full of love. He thought of Luna, of the life they had once shared, and of the choices that had torn them apart. Perhaps he could not bring her back, but through these pups, he could honor her memory, protect her legacy, and find redemption for his own failures. As the first light of dawn touched the forest, the Alpha King made a decision. He would not run from what was coming. He would face it, whatever it was, and he would do so with Luna's children at his side. But even as the sun rose, a dark feeling lingered in the air. The forest held its breath, and the Alpha King knew that the journey ahead would not be easy. The pups were not just children. They were the key to a secret that could change everything. And somewhere deep in the forest, hidden from sight, the rival watched. His lips curled into a smile, sharp and cold. "Soon," he whispered, "you will see the truth, Alpha King, and it will not be what you expect." The Alpha King felt the weight of the future pressing down on him, but he did not waver. He had lost love once, but he would not lose these lives. He had been a leader, a warrior, and now he would become a protector in a way he had never known. The pups stirred in their sleep, and one lifted its head, looking at him with glowing eyes full of trust. The Alpha King placed a hand on its small head, feeling the warmth of life and magic flowing through them. "Together," he whispered, "we will face whatever comes. Together." But as the sun climbed higher, a chill ran through the Alpha King's spine. He sensed it before he saw it, a presence stronger than the rival watching from the forest. The wind carried a whisper, faint but clear. "The past is not done with you, Alpha King. The legacy of Luna will test you and claim what is hers." The Alpha King's heart clenched, but he did not retreat. He gathered the pups close and stood tall, eyes scanning the trees. The forest was full of shadows, secrets, and dangers, and he knew deep in his heart that the true test of his strength and of his love was only just beginning. The forest seemed to hum with power, and the Alpha King felt a strange stirring in the pups. Their glow brightened slightly as if sensing the coming challenges. The bond between him and Luna's legacy, grew stronger with every heartbeat. The Alpha King's jaw set. Whatever was coming, he would face it. He would protect the pups. He would honor Luna, and he would not fail again. The wind howled through the forest like a living thing, carrying the scent of rain and the sharp tang of magic. Thunder rumbled in the distance, shaking the leaves and stirring the shadows. The Alpha King stood at the edge of a wide clearing, holding the two pups close. Their fur shimmered faintly, silver and gold glinting in the dim light, and their eyes glowed like small stars. He had sensed the danger long before he arrived. The rival, the one who had appeared at the den, had not come alone. There was a new presence in the forest, stronger, darker, and filled with power that pricked at the Alpha King's instincts. His claws dug into the wet earth, and a low growl vibrated in his chest. This was more than a challenge, it was a test. The forest fell silent, as if waiting for the storm to arrive. And then from the shadows the rival stepped forward, flanked by creatures neither fully wolf nor fully human. Their eyes glowed red and their movements were fluid, unnatural, as if the forest itself had obeyed a dark command. "You brought them," the rival said, his voice cold and hard. "You think you can protect them from what is coming?" The Alpha King's eyes narrowed. "I will protect them," he replied firmly. "They are Luna's children, and I swear no harm will touch them while I breathe." A gust of wind swept across the clearing, rustling the leaves and carrying a whisper that seemed almost like Luna's voice. "Protect them. Protect what is ours." The Alpha King's chest tightened. Her spirit was with them, guiding him. He felt a warmth in his heart, a mixture of grief and courage. The rival laughed softly, a sound that carried no humor, only menace. "Foolish Alpha, you have no idea what you face. These pups carry a curse, one their mother left behind, power they cannot control, and a destiny that will destroy everything if you fail." The larger pup stepped forward, growling, shadows bending and twisting around its small body. The Alpha King's eyes flicked to it, pride and fear mixing in equal measure. The child had inherited Luna's strength. Its courage was fierce, even in its tiny body. "Enough," the Alpha King roared, and the ground seemed to tremble beneath him. "They will not be harmed. You will not touch them." The rival's eyes narrowed, and with a gesture the dark creatures lunged forward. The Alpha King leapt in front of the pups, his body a barrier of muscle and strength. He moved like lightning, claws slashing, teeth flashing, every movement precise and deadly. But the creatures were not ordinary. They twisted in unnatural ways, slipping past his defenses, testing him, probing for weakness. The pups reacted instinctively. The smaller one summoned a soft, glowing light, blinding the dark creatures and forcing them back. The larger pup wove shadows, creating barriers and traps that slowed the attackers. The Alpha King's heart swelled with a mixture of awe and fear. Luna's legacy was alive in them, but it was raw, uncontrolled, and dangerous if misused. He took a deep breath and focused. The power of an alpha surged through him, enhanced by his love, his grief, and his determination. He felt Luna's presence in every heartbeat, guiding him, whispering that he could not fail. The battle raged on, the forest alive with energy. Lightning struck the trees, fire sparking along their trunks, shadows dancing wildly. Yet through it all, the Alpha King remained steady, moving to protect the pups, striking with precision, defending with strength, and commanding the elements of the forest as if it were an extension of his will. Suddenly, the rival lunged at him, eyes blazing. "You cannot win!" he shouted. "You cannot control what is hers." The Alpha King met his gaze unflinching. "I do not fight for power. I fight for her children. For Luna's legacy. and I will not fail." With a roar that echoed through the forest, he struck, using every ounce of his strength and skill. The rival stumbled back, surprised by the intensity and precision of the Alpha King's attack. The pups, sensing his resolve, combined their powers, weaving light and shadow in perfect harmony, creating a barrier that pushed the dark creatures back. The rival fell to his knees, exhausted and defeated. His dark creatures vanished into the forest, leaving silence in their wake. The Alpha King stood tall, panting, his body bruised and bloodied, but his spirit unbroken. He looked down at the pups, who were trembling, their eyes wide but shining. "You survived," he whispered, bending down to touch their heads. "You both survived, and you will grow strong, I promise you that." The pups nuzzled him, their small bodies warm against his chest. The Alpha King felt a wave of relief and love unlike anything he had known. This was Luna's gift, her legacy, and her trust placed in him. He had carried it through the storm, and now it was safe. But even in the quiet after the battle, the Alpha King knew the journey was not over. The pups' power was strong, but it was still raw and unpredictable. He would need to teach them, guide them, and protect them as they grew. The rival had been only the first test. The forest itself, the world outside, and perhaps even destiny, would challenge him again. The Alpha King sat with the pups beneath the first light of dawn, his hands resting gently on their heads. "You are stronger than you know," he said softly. "And you are not alone. I will teach you, guide you, and protect you with my life." The pups looked up at him, eyes glowing faintly with their magic, and for the first time, the Alpha King allowed himself to smile. There was hope even in the shadow of the past. There was love even in the grief that had once weighed him down. Luna's spirit was alive in them, in him and in the bond they now shared. The forest around them seemed to acknowledge it, the wind softening, the sun rising higher, casting light on the clearing where the Alpha King, the pups, and Luna's memory stood together. He felt the pulse of life and magic in the world, a reminder that even in darkness, there could be light. As they prepared to return to the den, a soft whisper carried through the wind, faint but unmistakable. "Thank you, my Alpha, for keeping us alive." The Alpha King froze, feeling Luna's presence surrounding them. His heart ached with love and longing, but it was no longer a grief that paralyzed him. It was a love that gave him strength, courage, and purpose. He nodded, tears forming in his eyes, but he did not turn away. The pups stirred beside him, small paws brushing his chest, their magic glowing softly. The Alpha King knew the path ahead would not be easy. There would be challenges, dangers, and shadows yet to face. But he also knew that together, they could overcome anything. Luna's legacy was alive, and he would honor it with his heart, his strength, and his life. The rival was gone for now. But the Alpha King could sense that the forest held more secrets, more mysteries, and perhaps more threats that would test him. Yet he was ready. He had faced loss, pain, and failure before, and now he had love, trust, and hope to guide him. He took a deep breath, the wind carrying the scent of the forest, the rain and the magic that lingered in the air. He looked down at the pups, their eyes shining like twin stars, and he whispered, "Together we will face everything. Together we will honor her. Together we will be strong." The pups nuzzled him in response, their small bodies trembling with life, hope, and magic. The Alpha King felt the weight of destiny, the burden of legacy, and the light of redemption all at once. He knew that Luna had trusted him with her greatest gift, and he would not fail her. Not now, not ever. As they began their walk back to the den, the forest seemed to shift around them. Light and shadow danced in harmony. The wind whispered gently, and for the first time in many years, the Alpha King felt at peace. The past had returned, yes, but it had brought with it a chance for redemption, love, and hope. The pups looked up at him, their glowing eyes filled with trust and wonder. He smiled, feeling a warmth in his chest he had not known since Luna had lived. He had been a warrior, a king, and a leader. Now he would be a guardian of life, of magic, and of love that transcended even death itself. The Alpha King, carrying Luna's legacy in the form of these two magical pups, stepped into the dawn. The storm had passed, but the forest whispered of challenges to come. Yet he did not fear, for he had learned that love, courage, and trust were more powerful than any curse or shadow. And he would face whatever the future held with the strength of an alpha and the heart of a protector.